Well, everyone, it's that time of year again. And you know, every time I make one of these lists, I think, this is the last one. There's no way I'm going to be able to top Mighty Mighty Monsters or the Trick-or-Treaters or Lumpkin the Pumpkin. But you know, I always seem to remember something I saw from my childhood, or I find another video in a thrift store, or someone online posts a long-lost piece of media. I already have next year's list prepared, and I got a few other tricks up my sleeve. Got so busy I had to even bring on help. Isn't that right, Herschel? I'm pretty sure he's padded his resume, but he's really fun to have around. This is the curse of the top 13 weirdest Halloween specials. Cat's Paw. How would Halloween even work in Star Trek? Would the kids just go around all the crew members for candy? Or would they use the holodeck to make, like what, a farm? Would people even recognize things like ghosts and jack-o'-lanterns if they spent their whole lives in a technological logic-driven utopia? That's what Cat's Paw wants the answer. This is widely regarded as the Halloween episode of the original Star Trek series, mainly because the producers aired the episodes out of order so that this one could air closer to Halloween 1967.
I'd say someone was playing an elaborate trick or treat on us.
Trick or treat, Captain?
Yes, Mr. Spock. You'd be a natural.
This is the first appearance of Mr. Nuclear Wessel himself, Walter Koenig's Chekhov. But TV audiences actually saw him several times before this episode actually aired, which is not really that big of a deal. I mean, TV wasn't as episodic as it is now. And you can totally see why they wanted to air this on Halloween. This episode is filled with dark castles, black cats, and evil witches.
Very bad poetry, Captain.
Of course, the real reason they went to a haunted castle is because the studio had a haunted castle set around the studio. It's the same reason they went to a gangster planet, a Nazi planet, and a Roman Empire planet. Is that ending still canon? Long story short, two aliens have traveled to this dimension and have the ability to manipulate space and matter to such a degree as to appear to us like magic. Thank you, Mr. Arthur C. Clarke.
I am a great magician. Your clothes are red! Wow!
I would actually go one step further and say that this is the closest thing the entire series has come to a Halloween special. Oh sure, there's plenty of cosmic dread and body horror, but nothing that I'm aware of that comes close to this classical gothic aesthetic. Well, except for maybe the Crusher family Irish sex ghost. Yes, that is a real thing that happened. Man, Star Trek was always kind of goofy, huh?
You see all this around you, and yet you do not believe.
He doesn't know about trick or treat.
Spookily the Square Pumpkin. This 2004 Halloween special has become a fixture of most preschool lineups, appearing on both Cartoon Network and Disney Junior at one point. It's about a timid little square pumpkin named Spookly.
All the pumpkins in this patch are nice and round. We all match. But not Spookly. Look at him. Spookly the square pumpkin.
Wikipedia specifically says that he's a Canadian pumpkin, which was not apparent during the viewing, but I can totally see it now. Most of the runtime is dedicated to Spookly trying to prove that he is a real pumpkin by winning the Jack-Olympics, while suffering the indignities of these two conjoined twins.
Well, look at him. He's not like us. They spread. And they don't stop spreading until they take over. The only good pumpkins are round pumpkins.
Yeah, save it for Parlor and all the other rotten gourds.
Tradition.
Indeed, the lesson here is that it doesn't matter if Spookly didn't win any of the events. He was able to save the Scarecrow and the other pumpkins from a terrible storm because of his uniqueness.
And it was also his uniqueness that earned him a place of honor as the farmer's personal jack-o'-lantern. By the way, which is creepier, eyeballs or empty sockets like a real jack-o'-lantern? So aside from the eyeball thing and the Olympics thing and the possible unintentional pro-trans message, the weird plot tangents involving bats and spiders and a candy corn crown, and the weird way their vines go down their backs to make their hands. Ugh. The weirdest thing about this special is that being square actually makes Spookly way more likely to be knocked over by the wind. Flat surfaces get hit by wind so much harder. It's the reason semi-trucks get flipped over most of the time. But you can't explain that to a little kid because you sound like an asshole. I mean, give Rudolph some credit. At least some fog lights are red. I will give this special props, though. For being an early 2000s CGI cartoon, this really doesn't look half bad. I have certainly seen worse CGI holiday specials.
Who pooped in a peanut barrel?
Bunnicula. So before the wonderful animated series that was unceremoniously dumped on Cartoon XD or whatever, Bunnicula was a book. A series, in fact. And it didn't really star Bunnicula, at least at the start. James and Deborah Howie, I don't know how I'm pronouncing that, wrote a series of mystery novels starring Chester and Harold, the cat and dog of the Moreaus, who solve mysteries. I like how the synopsis of the fourth novel starts with, Mr. Moreau has a midlife crisis. You know, just what kids want to read about. It is a fairly popular kids' book. It was soon optioned by the TV studio Ruby Spears as a ABC Weekend special. Wait, why does the rabbit sound like a monkey? Couldn't they have found like a chipmunk or a squirrel sound effect? I mean, even a mouse would have worked. Which I should tell you is a radical departure from the book. Oddly enough, the book is more about questioning Chester the cat's sanity as he goes through various attempts to murder the rabbit.
The rabbit sleeps all day.
So do you. So do I.
And he has long pointed teeth like a vampire has.
Well, so do you, and so do I.
The TV special starts with accidents happening at a vegetable processing plant.
That support rope was chewed through, Monroe. Now, I don't know if it's ghosts or what's causing these accidents.
Soon after, the Moreau kids find Bunnicula sleeping in a dirt-filled box.
And I read that vampires always line their coffins with dirt from their home country. I read books, I know.
After that, vegetables in the neighborhood start turning up with all the juices drained from them.
This tomato has turned white, and there are rabbit tracks around it.
The only rabbit in town is the one at the Monroes.
The only rabbit in town, in this whole small-town farming community. The absolute only rodent that could possibly be here.
Yeah, Bunnicula, the one whose name sounds like Dracula.
They know its name? What, did the Moreaus have a blog or something? When the town shows up to kill the rabbit, Chester and Harold hide in the sewer, and then stumble across who's really been causing all the accidents.
Apparently, they were sneaking into the plant at night in search of food.
Then the wolves chewed through the rope and caused the other accidents.
I don't think wolves do that, unless they're like demon wolves, as these appear to be. This special also definitively shows that Bunnicula is some sort of vampire creature who is powered by the full moon. A really powerful creature at that. Just kidding. But with as much talk about murder and insanity that goes on in the books, this is a nice little special in the typical Ruby Spears style. But I don't know how they managed to make Bunnicula look extra cute. He's horrifyingly adorable. Oh, and do check out that newer series, By Any Means Necessary. Halloween on Ice. 1 year after her Olympic silver medal win,
and her recovery from an attack by Tonya Harding's goons, Nancy Kerrigan led a Halloween-themed figure skating show at the Boston Garden, featuring skating routines inspired by Dracula, Frankenstein, and other creatures. Man, that's one hell of a summary. Kinda weird to see Nancy depicted as being terrorized in a vulnerable state when she's least suspecting it. Halloween on Ice is a 1995 NBC special. Well, actually, Halloween on Ice is an annual pageant that apparently has been operating on and off for the past 20 years, and Nancy Kerrigan has been a big part of that since this special. Halloween on Ice, the VHS, is a recording of the 1995 performance, and it's a bit trippy, starting with the Zombie Blues Brothers. Are the Blues Brothers typically associated with Halloween? I mean, I know they were basically the mascots for last-minute Halloween costumes for a while. Oh hey look, it's everyone's favorite bioexorcist, insect breakfast drink. There's also one part where a bunch of Hanna-Barbera characters and Bozo the Clown come onto the ice, and then it all kind of devolves into this sinister laughing madness. Other acts include Gomez and Morticia, blonde Alice Cooper, and the Blob, which looks less like a blob and more like a spittle. I really shouldn't criticize. These are amazing technical performances by people in heavy costumes. Although I will say I like some of the other year's performances better. Especially this Frankenstein, whose movements are just mind-blowing. I cringe in a good way while this performer mimics being off balance while remaining absolutely in control.
Came from their humble abodes to get a joke from our electrodes.
Ah, my ankles hurt just looking at him.
How's it hanging?
No, we're not doing that one. It doesn't count if you're trying to be weird.
Animaniacs, Fear and Laughter in Burbank. The Animaniacs just got a reboot about a year ago, and this Halloween-themed episode had a few people raising their eyebrows. At first it starts out normal enough, with a cold open Poltergeist parody. And hey, remember when they put a snow filter over the opening of the Christmas episodes, and we all lost our little kid minds over it? Well, now they can just digitally recolor the whole thing for Halloween. This shot in particular really stands out in my head. Like, you could do this sort of thing in the original series, at least TMS could. But now it's so much easier when you can animate on multiple masking layers and just adjust the occupancy in the computer. This whole episode is one big flex when it comes to animation.
I don't like what you see.
No, go back.
What?
There you are, beautiful. Ready to adopt some cats? Am I?
And Nickelwise, the Stephen King killer clown proxy, is exceedingly creepy. And even though I don't think they can legally reference the episode, this is a nice callback to the first run-in Wacko had with a clown.
When the whippoorwill whippers in the wind hates
I always wondered why they would compare a clown to a spider.
A clown is not a big spider.
A clown is not a big spider.
Because, I hadn't seen it yet. And it is satisfying to see the Warners run the creepy cut-up ragged with their usual hijinks.
Maybe you should lay off the dairy.
That is until we get to see Yakko's segment. Separated from his siblings, Yakko is lured into an abandoned office floor, and then quickly realizes how distressing it is when he literally has no one to play off of. Luckily, Dot and Wacko show up before anything really bad happens. But I gotta tell you, this was genuinely creepy, especially when Nickelwipe just sits there.
And it's also a little unsettling how relatable this is. You know, this kind of drama is a little out of place, at least when it comes to the Warner's segments. Like, Rita and Runt could have pulled this off, and no one would have batted an eye. Oh, and do you remember that episode where Slappy got dementia and Skippy had to, live in a foster home? That was, really traumatic. But it's also, a weirdly accurate deconstruction of character. Of course, Yakko is the one most susceptible to alienation. His type of comedy relies on him playing off of others. You know, unless it's a song. It's also a fairly accurate representation of how the Losers Club defeats Pennywise.
You guys think I'm funny, right? Of course. You're one of my funniest brothers. Easily top 2.
Same for me.
Oh, thanks.
By reassuring that they are loved by coming together. Okay, and you know what I mean when I say coming together, right?
Get out, everybody!
1313 Mockingbird Lane. Mockingbird Lane is a 2012 Munsters reboot that had the plug pulled on it at the very last minute. So the pilot was released on NBC as a Halloween special. And thank goodness, because it is bad. Well, not so much bad as it just kind of misses the point of the Munsters. The original Munsters was a 1964 CBS sitcom about a family of monsters. Aside from competing with The Addams Family, which was currently on ABC, The Munsters was sold as a satire of both monster movies and the shifting American middle class. You see, unlike Gomez, Herman Munster is a working stiff, and his family lives in the suburbs. Most of the series' comedy comes from the family interacting with normal people, often teed up by Herman's human niece, Marilyn. The Munsters, or at least Herman, is oblivious to their nature and how the outside world sees them, while at the same time offering no ill will towards anyone else. Now, if the analogy wasn't clear by now, the Munsters represent the other. This was the early 1960s, so there were no sitcoms about a black family or a Jewish family, a Mexican family, or even the other kind of white family. It might have started off as a spoof and not the original intention of the creators, but the show ended up being an important lesson on tolerance and empathy.
The lesson I want you to learn is it doesn't matter what you look like. What does matter is the size of your heart and the strength of your character.
And the new show would have taken all that and just thrown it in the garbage. The big flaw is that the Munsters in this series know that they are monsters, and they know that they have to hide it from the world, because they know that the world just won't understand them. Also, they do actively murder people, yes.
I don't understand any of this. I couldn't get him to sweep the front porch, and he works himself to death painting the neighbor's house.
What the hell, man? Grandpa is the worst in this. Well, actually, he's the best, because he's the only one that actually gives the performance of a monster. But in the original series, he was an eccentric inventor. And in this, he's a manipulative sociopath who has decided that the best thing to do, after his family has to move away to avoid the consequences of one of them attacking people, is to, as he put it,
I'm going to start drinking again.
Also, he lords the fact that Herman needs constant maintenance as a way of manipulating him.
All the king's horses and all the king's men will never put Humpty together again.
Oh, and get this. Herman's heart is giving out because he's making love too hard with his vampire wife. White people problems, am I right? So Grandpa decides to kill Eddie's new scout leader by using Marilyn as bait. He succeeds. And that's the start of your new series.
They're on the wrong tables. Herman is on the one that has all the slots for draining fluids. The dead guy should be on that one. I don't think Grandpa's a real doctor.
What the shit, Peacock? If you're going to just rip off as much as possible to make the product unrecognizable from the original, then why don't you just call it something else? We already know you're embarrassed to be making a Munsters reboot because you called it Mockingbird Lane.
Sometimes that is better.
Woody Woodpecker's Spooking Annie. So how long do you think a Halloween special on TV should be? Like 20 minutes at least? How about 7.5 minutes? Spookin' Annie was a Woody Woodpecker short, or special, that I'm not actually sure how it aired in 1964. I mean, the Woody Woodpecker show ran one season in 1958, and then was revived from 1970 to 77. So did this 7-minute short sponsored by Kellogg's air as a primetime special? In fact, the only reason we know this special exists is because Universal released a Woody Woodpecker DVD set, and this was in the special features section. Oh, but it gets weirder. The short actually begins in black and white, in the office of Walter Lantz, creator of Woody himself, as they talk about all the characters they are going to invite to a big Halloween party, most of which I don't recognize at all. Who the hell is Homer Pigeon?
How about Sugarfoot?
Sugarfoot? Who ever heard of a horse going to a party?
Don't be silly. We'll use him for the donkey.
I can't help but feel that this little live-action segment is some sort of Walt Disney envy.
They just threw a bunch of balloons at him. It's like, hey boss, should we actually tear these up to make them look like a balloon actually exploded? It's like, no. Also be careful with those. We can still take them back to the store.
Never mind, Woody. You go out and find your own Halloween party. And watch out for ghosts.
Thanks, boss.
Then the film transitions from black and white to full color, because I guess it was cheaper to animate in color than to film in color back then. So Woody heads to the party that they were going to invite the others to, but they are already having a party in a house instead of an office, and then proceeds to get the ever-loving crap tricked out of him.
Okay, that's enough tricks, wise guys. Trick or treat.
I understand why the bad guys are doing this, but what the hell, Chili? Woody then sneaks into the house as part of a band of mod ghosts. Literally steals one guy's skin.
You're inside of me right now. You're walking the night in my skin. How does that feel?
But after scaring everyone, Chilly Willy goes full Splatterhouse on the spooks. And when they realize that one of the ghosts is Woody, everyone acts like they're really happy to see him then.
Woody?
Woody? Woody who?
Woody Woodpecker.
You're just in time for the big party.
Bunch of two-faces. The rest of the short is basically a music video of the titular Spookin' Annie. And you know, it's actually not bad.
Ghosts and goblins dancing all around. Spook, 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 Spookin' Annie, haunting all the houses in town.
Look at this horse tear it up. The special then ends with Lance telling kids not to do any of the things they just saw in the cartoon.
But remember to be polite when you ask for treats, and don't play tricks that are harmful.
Even though it would be really, really fun if they did. Again, the short run time, the live action segments, the shift in color, the menagerie of lesser known characters make this really stand out. In fact, this is the last animated appearance of Andy Panda for almost 50 years, who I guess is coming back soon and will be voiced by Mark Hamill?
Yeah, that's me. I'm David Pumpkins.
Nope.
Penguin Club Halloween Panic. For those who don't know, Penguin Club was a massive multiplayer open-world web browser game. It was basically designed to be Second Life for kids, and was created by a bunch of dads who wanted to have a safe place online. After an explosion of popularity, they were eventually sold to Disney, who expanded it so much that it fizzled out and was shuttered in 2017. Of all the many tie-in products, you'd think a cartoon would be obvious for Disney. I mean, that's basically what Angry Birds did. And you'd be right. They did do a few Club Penguin cartoons, but you would have missed them if you blinked. For some reason, instead of airing the special each Halloween on the Disney Channel, you know, an established network that could have gotten way more eyeballs on your investment, it went exclusively online after one showing. I guess in an attempt to drive traffic to the site. Guess that didn't work. Another weird thing about this special is that it's stop-motion animation, which looks nice enough. I like how you can actually tell that all the mouths are actually drawn on the beaks. Then you have these ghosts that are CGI. I mean, they stand out, but just barely. They did a good job making the two styles feel natural side by side. The whole special is just really bright and charming. And it has some familiar voice actors you might recognize, including Wallace Shawn.
I am, after all, the foremost authority on the supernatural. It would take a Class 4 poltergeist to overwhelm my dauntless fortitude. I'm a ghost expert and don't scare easy. However, I do have an irrational fear of analog clocks.
And the music is not bad either.
It's all about the gotcha!
The plot is simple enough. There's this big guy named Blizzard who goes off script during a haunted house ride.
This is off the charts! A Class 5 zombie flash mob!
Rejected by his friends for ruining all their hard work, Blizzard falls under the influence of Poltergus, a mischievous ghost who apparently just wants to teach others how to pull pranks. This, of course, is a trick as well, when Gus gets Blizzard to unknowingly release a gang of ghosts, who plan on turning the whole island into specters forever.
See, Red Rum? I told you I'd get you out of that hole, eventually. What took you so long, you little shrimp?
However, because the ghosts have no chill, they belittle Gus to the point where he actually teams up with Blizzard one last time to trick the ghosts back into their ecto hole. Ew.
One Halloween night, Great Uncle Garwald found a new hole.
I'm sure he did. Oh, shit. Outtake.
But no, it's okay. Don't be nervous. It happens to everyone. So both Gus and Blizz learn the value of true friendship. Or at least spiteful alliances. Then there's this part where Wallace Shawn Penguin gets a call from a shadowy agent, implying that there's some sort of extended Penguin cinematic universe.
Excellent work, but our sources indicate a much larger threat to the island. It's time to put that clever young penguin to the test.
Wait, what's so special about that guy? He didn't do anything. So the fact that this special apparently has lore and is connected to a now defunct website kinda hurts its odds at being aired on Disney again, or even featured on a Disney website. No release on DVD, and it was just lucky that someone uploaded an HD version of it onto the net somehow. Or it might have been lost to time. The Night of the Headless Horseman. Okay, everyone, gather round for another version of Washington Irving's Sleeping Hollow. So what makes this one so special? Oh, jeez! What? This special aired in 1999 on Fox.
Yeah, boy!
And as you can see, not only is it computer animated, it is motion captured. Again, motion capture made a huge splash in the early 2000s. And the technology has gotten better since the days of Donkey Kong Country. But just because you can make a whole movie with mocap doesn't necessarily mean you should. Oh sure, it's a good starting point and a fast way to record actions, but a good animator can often bring out a dynamism that real life can't often replicate. Kinda like how everyone just waves their hands around most of the time. Also, the CGI is definitely from the early aughts. The men look like they're from local furniture liquidation commercials, and the women look like they're from banner ads on BitTorrents. But the special overcomes this by just having one hell of a voice cast. Mark Hamill, Clancy Brown, Jeff Bennett, Luke Perry as Brom, William H. Macy's as Crane, and Tia Carrere as Katrina.
And Tia Carrere, we may have to pay attention.
And a special appearance by Patrick Starr himself.
Ichabod Crane! I said Ichabod Crane, is that you?
Because of the limitations of motion capture back then, it would benefit the viewers to think of this as more of a stage play. Oh sure, they get a little fancy here and there with the camera, but for the most part, scenes take place in wide open spaces between 2 or 3 characters. But that's okay because, as mentioned before, the real draw are the performances from the stellar cast.
Ichabod Crane never visit my farm again, you say? Oh, that'd be
Oh sure, Mark, Clancy, and Bennett run circles around everyone else, but they're professional voice actors. But no one really gives a bad performance here.
Being the new schoolmaster, I reckon you figure Sleepy Hollow's tales of strange, ghostly doings to be foolishness.
I adore such tales. I know by heart Cotton Mather's account of witchcraft, and many a ghost have I myself seen on a lonely night.
Then you won't be afeard to look there.
One of the strengths this special has over the many other Sleepy Hollow specials I've covered is that it actually depicts the rivalry between Ichabod and Brom as the focal point of most of the story, with Brom pulling tricks and intimidating Crane, and the schoolmaster firing back with his intellect and social manipulation.
This gentleman informs me I am not to visit your farm again, sir.
Well, does he now? Only I may turn a man away from my hospitality. Schoolmaster Crane, I hereby invite you, sir, to my farm for dinner tonight. Served, of course, by my daughter, Katrina, my unmarried daughter, Katrina.
This is also probably the best Katrina I've ever seen. She's not a passive player like many of the other adaptations. It's pretty clear that she's playing the two suitors against each other, but at the same time, she hasn't really decided which one she likes the most.
Don't worry, Father. I cannot juggle 3 rolling pins, but 2 I can juggle. Mwah!
Oh, I hope it doesn't all come crashing down.
Also, they do a really good job at getting across the kind of pre-Lovecraftian eldritch horror that has supposedly taken over Sleepy Hollow.
Take me with you.
I cannot.
Wait, my body needs a head. Give us yours.
Of course, things go a bit off the rails when Brom actually decides to sell his soul to the Horseman in exchange for getting rid of Ichabod.
A wonderful tale. I only wish there was some truth to it.
Didn't I say Brom had to pay a price? To take the Horseman's place? Now I wonder if you could do me a favor. They won't let me keep this head. Hold on to it for me while I go in search of another one, won't you?
Then why wouldn't you just take mine?
Because you have no neck.
Ah, sick burn, bro. Michael Jackson's Halloween. As an artist, Michael Jackson stands on his own as a cultural icon. But the success of Thriller meant that the man would always be tangentially associated with Halloween. And after his death, his estate leaned into that by greenlighting this CBS animated TV special. And this special is weird in the same way most of Michael Jackson's projects are weird. Very creative, but only sorta makes sense, kinda, if you rewatch it a bunch of times. Basically, Michael Jackson himself, with the help of Bubbles the Monkey, played by Brad Garrett.
May I be of assistance?
He's a chimp!
Oh, my delivery's here. Delish. Are these organic?
Lured 2 teenagers to his haunted hotel by, of course, changing into a bat.
Nice look, boss. I'll wait for the delivery. Good luck with the targets.
The girl works as an assistant in an office, where she gets in trouble for dancing, and the boy is the son of a grocer who gets in trouble for having an entire DJ table in the back room.
I heard the wikis.
Like, you can show that your main characters have dreams and ambitions, but having them get in the way of other people trying to do their jobs is not really as endearing as you think. The animation is good enough, except that the motion capture of the dancing can seem a little jerky and stiff. The human designs look like something from Monster High, only lacking the flair, but the designs of the settings and the creatures are fantastic. My favorite is the cat doctor. I like how his irises bounce from being round to being slotted. Really illustrates his sense of confliction. You see, every creature they meet along their way wants to dance, but the villain won't let them.
Your marching has gotten so much dancier.
Her name is Conformity. I get that the Scarecrow mirrors the girl, what with all the chores she has to do.
You know she never lets us have any fun.
And the spider mirrors the boy.
I come from a long line of spider generals. They all did what was expected of them, and I do what's expected of me.
And I guess cat is opposite of dog? What I don't get is how these separate characters are aspects of Michael. You see, the climax involves the kids using Kingdom Hearts summons to fight off Conformity.
Hey there! You're gonna free us all!
It's only when they use all three keys at the same time that they manage to summon the King of Pop himself.
The power is yours!
I say the weirdest thing about this special is the whole thing gives off the vibe of a Christian DVD. Only instead of Jesus, it's about how Michael will one day return to save us all.
So they know who Michael Jackson is in this world, but is he, still alive? Or has he been dead for 10 years? Either way, I think they should be a little bit more surprised when he popped out of a machine when they combined a scarecrow, a spider, and a cat.
Wait, is that supposed to be Michael? Because with the one spit curl, it looks like Charlie Brown.
Oh, good grief.
Monsters in My Pocket. This special is really the pilot episode for an animated series based on the Monsters in My Pocket toy line. You see, in the 1980s, the price of oil needed to make plastic toys skyrocketed. As such, toy companies came up with the thrifty idea to make smaller toys and market them as being able to take playtime anywhere. This worked because the trend lasted well into the 90s. Micro Machine, Micronauts, and Micro Monsters.
What do you have in your pocket? Monster in my pocket.
The Monsters in My Pocket toy line featured hundreds of bright, monochromatic, and surprisingly high-detailed and expressive monster figures. Some are based off movie monsters, classic mythology, old folklore, and oof. Well, time to cancel this series. Naturally, the franchise got a video game, a comic book miniseries, and a shot at being a Saturday morning cartoon series. The plot centers around a group of good monsters who are custodians of several bad monsters. One such is Vampire, who tries to escape by casting a shrinking spell. And as you can tell by the premise, the spell backfires stupendously.
The spell shrank Monster Mountain instead and blew us all the way to Los Angeles.
Yep, that's Tony Jay as the Invisible Man. And then there's Mummy, whose special ability is infinite storage. Wolfmon, which I think was created just for the show. Oh sure, there is a werewolf figure, but this is kind of a Rastafarian werewolf.
I feel the blood pounding in my ears. Boy, that's go!
And that's the kind of pun you would get from something like the Garbage Pail Kids. Rounding out the group of good monsters is Big Ed, a friendly Frankenstein monster voiced by Frank Welker. And I don't know why, but I just think he's adorable.
You're not scared of us now, are you, Carrie?
Me? Scared? Of a few monsters? Nah. It was just kind of a shock.
The gang has found sanctuary with Carrie, the daughter of a famous horror novelist, an obvious homage to Stephen King. I always thought it was interesting how the human ally was a girl. With a franchise like this, it's usually always targeted at boys. Well, the Invisible Man certainly doesn't appreciate Carrie, despite the fact that the gang could really use her help.
Gee, I'm just trying to help. You guys are kind of small, you know.
In a moment, I hope to remedy that.
Things get more complicated when the bad monsters, Medusa, Swamp Beast, and Vampire, played by Rob Paulson.
Right now, I'm dying of thirst.
How about a nice soda pop?
Oh no, I never drink soda pop.
Discover that screams will return them back to their normal size. So now the pocket monsters and Carrie have to work together in order to stop Vampire from running amok. And at the end of the episode, they find out that laughter is the secret to getting them back to normal.
Carrie here laughed both times we tried to mix our growth formula.
I'm part of the formula?
Apparently an integral part.
Forget Halloween specials, this is one of the best pilots I've ever seen. It's an actual coherent story that does a good job at introducing all the characters and has surprisingly quality animation. But on top of that, it's just a fantastic setup for future episodes. Like, bad monsters only need to be around screams for like a second, and then they can just stay big by scaring people.
Oh, go on, scream, scream. I love a good scream.
This puts the good guys at a tremendous disadvantage, but that's okay because Carrie is always cracking jokes.
Listen, I really love your hair, Medusa. Do you use a conditioner? Or just a snake charmer?
Which makes her and her laughter really important to the series. Also, we don't know if screams will shrink the good guys, or if laughter will shrink the bad guys. Plus, it was like a big prison. You could introduce new monsters every week. I'm actually angry about how good a premise this is. I'm just sorry that we never got any more pocket monsters. Well, I guess we did, but you know.
Monster in my pocket.
And since you picked the magic pumpkin...
I said no!
Your car is a giant strawberry?
Stop it!
David S. Pumpkins!
Okay, fine, I'll talk about David S. Pumpkins, but there's no way he's gonna be this high on the list. Everybody, move up one. There. Number 13. Again. The David S. Pumpkins Halloween Special. Actually, is that the proper title of it?
What is this?
The David S. Pumpkins Halloween Special.
Any questions?
David S. Pumpkin is one of those weird children's YouTube videos come to life. No, really. The original SNL sketch was about a couple that goes on a haunted elevator ride. Ooh. Each floor opens up to a gruesome spectacle. And then Tom Hanks shows up.
How's it hanging? I'm David Pumpkins!
The joke is he just appears to be a guy in a pumpkin suit. Not a pumpkin suit, and not in any way associated with any horror trope. Except maybe his two skeleton dancers?
Okay, yeah, and David Pumpkins is...
his own thing!
And the skeletons are...
part of it!
The two adults were obviously confused by it, but kids on YouTube, unironically, and I mean without any concept of irony or knowledge of why the joke works, loved David S. Pumpkins. SNL even gamed the system by uploading one of those 1-hour videos. Naturally, the next step was an animated special, in which Dave befriends two kids and helps the older brother rediscover the magic of Halloween.
There's your costume.
Oh, I don't have one.
I'll tell you what really freaks me out. This art style reminds me of something you'd see on Adult Swim. So I'm just waiting for David to do something really, really messed up, even though I know this is pretty toothless. Wow, SNL becoming toothless, who would have guessed? The whole special is based on David being this generic spirit of Halloween.
I wasn't always this way, to be sure. I used to be the way I used to be before. But as I'm sure that you've heard, some occurrences occurred.
Okay, so this isn't Jim Hanks, which kind of sucks for him. It's like, oh, come on, bro. You said I could do all the TV and video game stuff. He's like, no, I think I'll take this one.
Who can perform magical feats sometimes?
But how are we going to get you guys back to the pumpkin patch in time?
Like this. Sorry.
Which is really helpful when he has to teach some candy-stealing bullies a lesson.
He said he was gonna sing, but he's not singing! And the music is building to a point where he should sing!
Yes, thank you for pointing out the joke. Oh look, he did the thing from the thing. I just hope parents don't actually start putting candy in jack-o'-lanterns as a tradition. It's bad enough that this character became so popular for the very thing it was created to make fun of. We don't need him taking up any more cultural real estate. I hate you, David S. Pumpkins.
Okay.
Halloween. I was so excited when I found this in Big Lots that I immediately had to tweet about it, despite it not being anywhere near October. And I was not disappointed.
E ku'u akua.
Who? What?
Pineapple Head. Hey, nothing funny about Pineapple Head, Kai.
But you know, as far as one of those bad international CGI movies goes, this is not too horrible. I mean, it's shoestring, but at least it's kind of an original idea for a change. Even though they have to try and remind you every 5 minutes.
Isn't tonight a full moon? Yes, and it's also Halloween.
Ooh, scary. Don't you mean Halloween?
It's Halloween time.
It seems a bit eerie out, you know?
It's Halloween. It's supposed to be eerie.
3 kids find a box that contains an ancient evil. Powered by the moon, the monster finds himself drawn to an actual piece of moon rock that the kids have. So it's up to them to rally the island's mystical inhabitants in order to defeat the monster, once and for all. Or at least until some other idiot opens the box. Yeah, I don't know if any of this might be offensive to any actual native Hawaiians, but for that I apologize, because there are 2 things that I unironically love about this. 1, Pineapple Head is a great design. Like all those gnarled vines and that goofy jack-o'-lantern made out of a pineapple. And this kick-ass grandpa.
Happy Halloween!
Awesome costume, Pono.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Ouch! My back.
And then there are so many hilariously goofy and bizarre things in this movie that I've decided to present it in the form of a mini list. This is the top 10 weirdest things about Halloween. This shot of the goddess where everything shakes instead of her. All the spiders and centipedes and even cats that follow the kids. They disappear once Pineapple Head shows up, so what, were they like minions of Pineapple Head, or was this just a completely separate curse? This old hamster thing. When he first shows up, you think he's going to be like, what, their leader? But he never shows up again. There's a completely different elder hamster thingy. Oh, look at his little walker. The hamsters make a second mechanical Pineapple Head to run around the island. I've watched this movie 3 times and I still don't know exactly why they did this. This kid forgets his astronaut helmet, despite it being prominently featured in the bedroom scene. I'm only assuming because they couldn't properly rig it on his body. The kids are separated for like 2 minutes, but when they spot each other on the beach, they hug while this triumphantly saccharine music plays, like it's the second Return of the King ending. Mark Hamill. Just Mark Hamill out of nowhere.
Come out with your hands up. Way up. Now. Come on now, or well, something.
He has no teeth. Why do they have no teeth? You know, there's a balance between too many teeth and, blow-up doll.
The rotor of this homemade helicopter is really polygonal. I mean, you couldn't, throw up a subsurface on it to smooth it out so that it looks like the rest of the completely non-weird homemade helicopter?
I'm not sure what she's thinking, but I like where she's going.
This Halloween decoration has no strings or moving parts. I know it's meant to be a decoration, but it just looks like a real ghost. Well, real for this movie style. And finally, the weirdest thing about Halloween is Jaguar Man.
Oh!
I cannot describe the noise that came out of me when I first saw this. This is clearly a mutant Jaguar Man, right? Look at all the other adult costumes, and then look at this. Did this studio try to make an Action 52 movie at some point? This is a furry who forgot it was Halloween, so he gave out the only thing he had in the kitchen.
You all have a great night.
So when a giant rampaging pineapple jack-o'-lantern is the least weirdest thing in your movie, then you know you've got something special.
Happy Halloween!
Goodbye, Herschel. See you next year.
Oh shit, it's a rat! Ow, bit me! I'm gonna need a rabies shot! Just David S. Pumpkins!